Okay, hi everyone, my name is Serena. Welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to try to vlog again. I don't know if it's noticeable, but I am filming on my phone. And the reason why I am is because I do not feel like bringing a big camera everywhere I go when I'm vlogging. So I'm going to try and vlog on my phone and see if that's better for me. I tend to not finish vlogs, or it takes me way too long. So maybe if I film on my phone, I'm going to have more clips and I am going to do it more frequently and finish it, in a timely manner. I have done something like this before. You can tell by the title. I am going to read booktubers favorites, and I have done that before. I've read Kayla's from Books and Lala's favorite books, and I will link the video down below. It took me way too long to finish that video. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give myself the summer to complete this. At first I thought I was gonna make this a series, but I don't think I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna read one book for each booktuber that I've chosen today. These booktubers are mostly people that I've known for so long, and they've always supported me here on this channel on booktube, and I definitely want to read their favorite or one of their favorites. I'm just gonna pick one. And yeah, I've always wanted to read other people's favorite books to see if we have similar tastes, and let's see how it goes. The first booktuber is Olivia Savannah from Olivia's Catastrophe. I have known Olivia for so long, I don't even know how many years. We've done buddy reads together, we've buddy read A Little Life together. That was interesting. But when I think about Olivia, I think of Shakespeare, and I am not a big fan of Shakespeare. I don't know, I haven't read a lot by Shakespeare, but one of her favorite books was Hamnet, which was inspired by Hamlet. And I have read Hamnet a couple of months ago, so we're not gonna do that, but I did enjoy that one. I also think of books in verse, novels in verse, and I love novels in verse. I also think of Afrofuturism. I've read Binti, and I did enjoy that one as well. I know that her favorite series is The Raven Boys, but I'm not gonna read that one today. Maybe one day. I just don't want to start a series that I know I'm not gonna finish anytime soon. But lastly, what I think when I think about Olivia Savannah is books about grief. And I do want to read more about that. I feel like I like those kinds of books as well. And one of the books on her favorite books videos that caught my attention that I've wanted to read for so long is Crying in Mart by Michelle Zauner. And I'm gonna pick this one for Olivia. The second booktuber is Kelsey from Bookishly Nerdy. I've known her for a while as well. We've buddy read the series of unfortunate events, and we also watched the series together, and that was a fun time. I remember that, and I really enjoyed watching that show with her. And when I think of Kelsey, I think of middle grade, of course, because we buddy read the series of unfortunate events, but I also think about romance because I know she loves romance. I have chosen to read House of Earth and Blood, or Crescent City, by Sarah J Maas. I know she really loves Sarah J Maas, the ACOTAR series. I like the ACOTAR series, especially the fourth one where Nesta is the protagonist. I really like that one. But I do want to read this one because I've heard that the ACOTAR series is connected to it in some way. I don't know how, but she's been raving about this. I think it was her favorite of 2021. Next booktuber is Mary from Mary Among Stories. I've known her again for a while now. We have buddy read, I think, The Vanishing Half together, and I've been on a couple of her live shows or one of her live shows. I've never ever, I think that was my first time doing a live show, and that was exciting. And for her, I've decided to read The Fellowship of the Ring, of course, by J.R.R. Tolkien. Every time I watch a favorite video of her, she always mentions J.R.R. Tolkien. I have read The Hobbit before and I liked it, so I want to read this one. I am intimidated because I know it's big, but I have to do it. I have to pick this one. The next booktuber is Marley from Marley Reads a Lot. And when I think about her, I think about thrillers and fantasy. But since I haven't picked a thriller yet, I'm gonna go with the thriller. And one of the thrillers that I've been wanting to read for a while is Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. And I know that was on one of her favorites list, so I'm gonna go with this one. Me and Marley, we have buddy read a thriller together as well. I think it was The Turn of the Key. Yeah, The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. Then we have Hillary from Melted Books. And we have, again, I think I've buddy read with almost everyone in here. With Hillary, I buddy read Malibu Rising. Everyone who knows me knows that I love Taylor Jenkins Reid, so I loved that buddy read. And for Hillary, I've chosen The Measure by Nikki Erlich because the synopsis sounds so interesting. And I will get into synopsises when I actually start reading the books. And when I think of Hillary, I don't think of a particular genre. I love how her reading taste is so diverse. She reads so many different genres, and I love that. Then I'm gonna read one of Mary's favorite books. Her channel name is Mary Jo Hedrick. And when I think of Mary, I think of the Jane Austen read-along that we did. I didn't read every book, but I remember reading like 2 or 3 of them, and then I participated in the live shows. That was fun. I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed our discussions, and I want to read one of her favorite books, and I picked In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado. I've always been interested in this book. I just haven't had the time to read it yet, and this is a perfect time. The last booktuber is the only booktuber that I don't know personally, but I just love watching their videos, and it's Cindy from With Cindy. I think she's so funny, and when I think of her, I obviously think of like the Six of Crows duology, because that's one of the books that she raved about. I have read Six of Crows, but I haven't read Crooked Kingdom yet, but I have not picked that book for this video. I've picked What My Bones Know by Stephanie Fu, because that sounds very interesting. I think it's a nonfiction. I'm pretty sure it's a nonfiction. It's a memoir. I've read a few memoirs lately, and I want to read more of them, and this sounds like one that I would enjoy. And that's all of the books that I'm going to read this summer for this vlog, and hopefully I enjoy all of them. I will talk to you guys when I start my first book, and I'm gonna start the first book today.
I read my first Alice Feeney book, and it will not be my last, let me tell you that, but I read Rock, Paper, Scissors. Speaking of reading a book in a day, you can definitely read this book in a day. I read it when I was doing a 24-hour readathon, and it was such a good book for that. It was so fast-paced, so crazy.
Hi guys, today is a very gloomy day. It is a different day, but I finally started the first book. I started Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. This is one of Marley's favorite books of 2022. It is a thriller. It is going by so quickly. I'm reading it on Libby. I'm already 25% through. I am really enjoying it. It is about this couple who are having marriage problems, and they decide to go on this weekend getaway in the Scottish Highlands. I was so pleasantly surprised to read about that because I'm actually going to Scotland in the next couple of weeks. So I'm going to film a couple of clips for you guys and hopefully put them in this vlog. I think something's going on in this old chapel, this like old house that they're in. It's very remote, so something's gonna happen there. We just haven't found out yet. I have to keep reading. And the couple is also, I think they want to kill each other. They hate each other and that's fun to read about. There are also these flashback chapters that are very fun to read about because I'm sure there are going to be a lot of reveals there. They're basically like journal entries or letters that the wife writes to her husband, but I don't think she ever gave him these letters. But yeah, she writes him a letter every year for their anniversary, and I'm enjoying this dual timeline. I'm sure the next clip will be the last clip because it is very fast-paced, so I will let you know my final thoughts in a little bit. Hi everyone, it is a brand new day and I finished Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. It is bright and early. I don't know if you can tell from my face, but I'm about to take a trip. I'm going to Phoenix, Arizona. Me and my friends are going to see the Grand Canyon and we're gonna do a road trip. We're gonna go to California as well, San Diego, and a lot of other places. For what concerns the book, I really liked it, actually. It was a 4-star for me. Obviously, I cannot say a lot about it because it's a thriller, but just like Marley said, this is my first Alice Feeney. It won't be my last. And as predicted, there were a lot of twists, not too many. I wasn't that shocked by the main twist, but at the very end, I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting that final twist at the end. And yeah, it was fun. Do you recognize this? If you've been following me for a long time, you might recognize this room. This is my Italian room. I'm currently in Italy and I haven't updated you guys in a month, let's say, because I've been pretty busy. I've been traveling a lot. I went to Arizona and I did a road trip with my friends. We went to San Diego, we went to the Grand Canyon, to Page. We had such an amazing time. And then the day after that ended, I immediately flew here to Italy. And then I went to Scotland, I went to London, and I went to Wimbledon. I did a lot. I included a little bit of clips. And now I'm back here in Italy for another month. So yeah, last week was my birthday. Didn't do much, but I've been doing a lot overall. And now I'm ready to update you guys again. I have been reading. I think last time I updated you guys, I was about to start In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado.
This is a creative nonfiction, I would say. It's a memoir about an abusive relationship told through a metaphor of a dream house. I thought that was really, really interesting, and it's a topic that I hadn't really considered before, and I'm really glad that I did learn about it. Also, this book made me cry, so you know how it is.
And I did finish that one. That was super quick. I finished that on the plane and I liked it. It's a memoir. Again, another nonfiction. I'm excited that I'm reading more nonfiction. I think I'm gonna give it 4 stars. It was really well written. It was very lyrical. I love the way she wrote. And it's an important subject that not a lot of people talk about because it's about a lesbian relationship, an abusive lesbian relationship. And usually when we talk about abusive relationships, we talk about heterosexual couples, and we don't tend to think that lesbian couples can be toxic and abusive. She uses a lot of pop culture references to speak about her experiences. She uses this dream house to describe her situation, and she goes between between first person and second person. At first it was kind of confusing, but then I realized she is separating her present self from her past self, and that's why there's this change from first person to second person. There's also fat rep. Even though the relationship was very, very abusive, she was kind of taught to be grateful, you know, because a beautiful woman, a beautiful blonde skinny woman is with her. For so long she felt like she couldn't complain. Some parts were really hard to read about, and yeah, I think this is a very unique memoir. After that, I read Outlander, which I'm not gonna talk about in this video because I went to Scotland and I wanted to read it. It's a huge ass book. It's like 850 pages, but as I said, I'm not gonna talk about it in this video. I did start The Fellowship of the Ring. I think I am 50% through. I can't talk about it right now because I did borrow it from the Libby app, and it was automatically returned to the library because I didn't finish it in time. So I am waiting for it to be available again to finish it and talk about it. The next book that I'm going to talk about is Olivia Savannah's favorite book of this video, and it's Crying in H Mart.
It was just a rounded, really beautiful, really harrowing, really touching memoir, and I can't recommend it more. I really loved seeing how the Korean culture was included in this one and how she connected to her mum through food and cooking and taste. It was emotional. It was really, really good. One of the best memoirs I read this year.
I am 60% through this one. I am really enjoying this one. Again, it's a nonfiction and it's about grief. I really want to read more about grief. Me personally, I lost my mom, and this is about this author losing her mom. She was 25 when she lost her mom and to cancer, and it's about her dealing with that. And she also talks about her growing up. I have to go now, but I'm gonna update you guys when I finish and tell you my thoughts. Hi everyone, I am here to update you guys on my reading progress. I have read a few books the past week. I am on my balcony right now. Hopefully you can hear me okay, but I did finish Crying in H Mart. I did enjoy it. I know it's hard to like rate nonfictions, especially if they're memoirs, but I did give this one 4 stars as well. It was very emotional, honestly. I do want to read more books about grief. It's about her talking about obviously the loss of her mom, her grief, but also her relationship with her mom, and how all of us, most of us, have disagreements with our parents, and how she admires her at the end of the day, and with everything that she did for her. She is half white, half South Korean. She wants to connect obviously with her culture, her Korean culture, and it was so interesting to read about. I don't have much to say about it, but it was really interesting and I enjoyed it. After that, I read Yellowface, which I'm not gonna talk about in this video obviously, and then I read What My Bones Know by Stephanie Fu. This again is a nonfiction about mental health. It's about relationships with parents, and in this case it's about Stephanie Fu's CPTSD. It's about, obviously it's a different type of relationship with parents. Obviously she was abused, mistreated for a long period of time during her childhood, and that had repercussions in her adult life. So very different stories. But I do want to take a break from nonfiction now. I think that was the last nonfiction on this list. I'm not comparing these two stories at all, but obviously they are heavy to read about, and they were both about, as I said, mental health. One is about grief, one is about CPTSD, both about relationships with parents, totally different. And I'm pretty sure both stories had therapy in it, so they were similar in that way, in the sense that they were both heavy stories about mental health and relationships with mothers, fathers, parents in general. So I am gonna take a break from nonfiction. But let's talk about what my bones know.
The book that actually is going to be my top book of all time. It is a memoir written by a journalist who was diagnosed with complex PTSD. But there's not that much research with that form of PTSD in general. So she uses her experience with journalism to actually try to investigate further into it. But the thing that got to me, that made me cry on the subway, was not any of the terrible things that she talked about in the book. It was towards the end of the book when she talked about finally being happy.
So what my bones know is about Stephanie, the author, finding out that she has CPTSD, and she is learning how to cope with that, to heal. And it's about her going to therapy, talking to other people with CPTSD, and learning more about that. It's about obviously her relationship with her parents. She talks about that in the book as well, and it's very heavy, as I said, because her parents were very abusive towards her and they abandoned her. Trauma is something that you keep with you forever. You can definitely get better at coping with it and living with it. That's why we have therapy, and that's why we heal in a certain way, but you do keep that in you for the rest of your life. So it's a very heavy story, and it was very interesting. I gave this one 4 stars as well, and I do see how a lot of people can relate to this. I read the audiobook. I'm basically reading audiobooks for all of these, but this one was in particular very interesting because you actually hear some parts from her therapy sessions, so that was interesting to hear about. I am updating you guys on basically all of the books because I haven't done much this past week. I've just been home reading. So I did finish The Measure as well.
This book was the biggest surprise of my life. This whole book just makes you question or examine deeply what relationships mean to you and what do you value out of life. Overall, I thought the story was very creative, and it got me so emotionally absorbed in the story, but also it made me reflect on my own life in a lot of ways. So this was a very impactful read for me.
And this one was very, very interesting, I have to say. It's kind of like a dystopian sci-fi. I don't want to say futuristic. It's like a near future type of situation. But the story is about how each and every person around the world, starting from the age of 22, they receive a box with a string in it. And this string represents basically the longevity of your life. So how long your life is going to be. And some people obviously have short strings, others have long strings. And this ends up creating chaos, obviously, because, you know, if you look inside the box and you see you have a short string, many people will have different reactions to that. In particular, the story is about these group of people. It's a multiple POV situation, and at the end, all of these stories intertwine in a way, which I think was really beautiful. But we see different perspectives and different lives. We see how couples separate, couples stay together, how there's a politician who is trying to antagonize short stringers to get his position as in the White House. And we see a couple of military men who, I don't want to spoil, but there's a situation there because people start to antagonize short stringers. They say that they're not worth like investing in, so they don't give loans to these people, they don't hire them. Some people who have short strings commit crimes, and that obviously ends up with everyone seeing people with short strings as criminals and as unstable. I really like the theme of found family in this book, and yeah, it was sad, but it also makes you reflect on your life, on how you never know when it's gonna end, and you should live it at the fullest. Would I open my box and see the string? Probably. Knowing me, I probably would. There was this section in which a couple goes to Venice. They go to Italy, and we do see a woman, like them talking to an Italian woman, saying, "Oh, how is the situation here?" with the strings in Italy, and this woman says, oh, not a lot of people have opened the boxes because here in Italy people don't live like people in America. They live like day by day. I love that there's this idea that Italians know what's important. Because, I mean, in some cases it's true, but it's not true for everybody. The ending was bittersweet. As I said, I love the found family trope and how all these stories intertwined. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I think I'm gonna give this either 4.5 or 5 stars because it's a really good book. I enjoyed it, and yeah. Now I'm gonna end this clip because I've been talking for a while.
I finally read this series and I finished it last year, and I just want to go back immediately to this world again. I feel like a completely different person ever since I finished this series. The mutual respect and kindness and empathy and just this overall companionship that they built, that's definitely one of my favorite things about the entire series.
Hi everyone, I am back in the US. Summer is over for me. I haven't updated you guys in a month, I believe, but I have been reading. I've read other stuff too that are not for this video, but the last 2 books that I needed to read, I did finish one. I finished The Fellowship of the Ring, and I'm currently almost done with The House of Earth and Blood. And I can't believe I left the 2 hardest books for the end. And by hardest, I mean they're the hardest books to get into because they are fantasy. One of them, The Fellowship of the Ring, is a high fantasy, like older book that is very descriptive, very long, and it's about a journey, if you know what I mean. A lot of things went over my head because, you know, summer, you're traveling. I personally traveled a bit more this month. I went to Florence, I went to Tuscany in general, and I went around Sicily. So reading a high fantasy books in the midst of traveling is a bit challenging, but I recognize the greatness of this book. I don't know if I will continue on with it. I did watch all the movies. I feel like everybody knows what the Lord of the Rings movies books are about, even though you haven't watched or read them. But I do see how a lot of people love them. It's like the OG high fantasy book, and you know, it's very important. I'm gonna give it like 3 stars just because of my enjoyment level. I have to say some parts were boring because maybe I wasn't that concentrated. That's probably my fault. I don't think I have to explain the plot of The Lord of the Rings, right? It's about hobbits and elves and dwarves that go on a journey, and there's this ring, and you know. And I also want to clarify how this book is, I said it doesn't have a lot of plot, but I think that's the main thing about it because it's mostly about fellowship and friendship and the journey, and it's about this world and how these people relate to each other, and they sing and they dance. There's a lot of singing, a lot of dancing, and a lot of, you know, eating together and being social. And that, I think that's the big part of this world. So I understand the vibes are amazing, and yeah, I'm glad that I read it.
This is still my very favorite book by her. Like, I even reread this book in preparation for the second one coming out, and honestly, I could see myself reading this one and the second one before the next one comes out. Like, just kind of continuing that cycle because I enjoyed it so much.
As for House of Earth and Blood, as I said, I'm over halfway through, so I'm almost done. I can't believe that I'm completing this in the time frame that I said I would, summer, because it's still technically summer, so I'm so proud of myself. But as for this book, this is hard because, again, it's a fantasy book. It's a new world, and the first chapter was so intimidating for me because there's a lot of info dump. So much info dump, and I was like, what's going on? I had no idea what was going on. So what I did is I read a couple of chapters. Like, I just kept going, I didn't like reread. I kept going, and then at a certain point I was like, okay, before I continue any further, let's look online for like a summary of the first bit so I can get into the story. So what I did is I found this video. I think the YouTuber is Carrie. This video is amazing. It's like 2 hours and I watched a bit of it, like the first part. It explains the entire plot of the book. And I watched like the part that I read and now I got it. Now I'm in it. Now I am immersed in the story and I kind of get what's going on, and it's just a lot of characters, a lot of info dump because it is a new world. And overall, this is about this half fae, half human girl named Bryce, who is a party girl. This is an urban fantasy, by the way, so they have reality TV and cell phones, but it's a fantasy world, so there are like every creature you can think of, it's in this book. There are vampires, there are fae, angels, werewolves, all of these creatures. They're divided in houses. It's a complicated world because years and years ago, this like fold opened and all these creatures came in and enslaved the humans. Things like that, you know? And now they're living together. Something happens, obviously. There's like this mystery, something is killing people. And one of the people who were killed was the main character's Bryce's best friend, Danica. So like she's trying to figure out 2 years later what actually happened because murders keep happening. There are a lot of adult content like drugs and sex and language. So if you're not comfortable with that, be aware. And there's a lot of like random comedy, which is fun. But yeah, overall, it's just a lot of talking and trying to solve this mystery so far. They're trying to find this like horn thing. And yeah, we're just trying to figure out who is doing these killings and what's going on. So I'll update you guys when I'm done and I'll conclude this video. Hi everyone, it is the next day and I have finished House of Earth and Blood. It was fun. I enjoyed it. As I said, there was a lot of info dump and it was hard to get into at first. Thankfully, that video that I mentioned helped me a lot. So once I got into it, it was fun. I feel like certain books aren't supposed to be overanalyzed. I feel like this is one of them. That it was just fun, you know? And as I said, there was a lot of talking, a lot of like introducing people and trying to solve the mystery, but the end was very fast-paced and interesting. I am concerned that the plot will only get more complicated and like hard to understand. I feel like I will continue on, and if I don't like the second one, I'll just stop. But I enjoyed the first book enough to continue on. It was fun, and the relationship, I like how it wasn't fast-paced, you know, it was a slow burn kind of, you know. If you guys read the book, I just found the whole like congress thing that they had, conference, and them watching everything happen on the TV so strange and funny. That's all I have to say about this. I think I'm gonna give it like 4 stars, 3.5. I don't know. It was just fun. I can't believe I did it. I can't believe I finished 7 books in the time frame that I said I would. It wasn't like a chore for me. It was very spontaneous. I enjoyed it, and yeah, I'm happy I did this. And as you guys can tell, I enjoyed everything that I read. I'm glad that I listened to my fellow booktubers' recommendations and their favorite books, and now I found a few that I really enjoy as well. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you guys in my next video. Bye.